Hi, I'm Stephanie, and I'm a certified personal trainer.
Hi, I'm Kate, and I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist.
And this is a podcast dedicated to educating women on their journey to optimal health. There's so much that we can do to optimize our health, but we've talked to so many women who just simply don't know how.
These conversations are what inspired us to start OmniaFit. The OmniaFit podcast is all about interviewing certified professionals to educate women on improving our health. We'll talk about things like stress relief through exercise, what we need to know about our hormones, the truth behind fad diets, and more. So subscribe, follow along, and let us know if there are any topics you want to hear more about.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Season 2 of OmniaFit. We're excited to kick off the season with a conversation with Liz Willey. She's a personal trainer who believes in movement to feel good and doesn't believe in diets. However, she didn't always have that mindset. In fact, most of her life, she thought about food and fitness in a way that most of us have in our lives, at least once or twice. So let's just dive into this conversation and hear about Liz's journey with diets and exercise and how she got to where she is today. Hello, Liz. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Stephanie. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I would love it if you could just start off giving an intro of yourself, what you do even outside of the fitness space, just who you are as a person, high level, because we're really going to dive into your story a lot throughout this podcast, but just who you are and maybe a little bit of why you're so passionate about being a trainer.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, so my name is Liz Willey. I am married. I have 2 kids. I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. They're boys. I'm a mom. They're in school. This is their first year in school. Very exciting for me. So I have more time to do other things like personal training. And also I'm a speech therapist. And I'm kind of a new trainer. I've been certified for a little over just about a year and a half. It's sort of a passion that I figured out later in life. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I do early intervention for speech therapy. I do home-based visits. And also I'm like a new trainer.
I love it. And then just diving right on into your story, when we talked prior, it really started back in high school. You were an athlete, right?
You could say that. I went to an inner city high school, and so the sports that I played were not like that competitive, kind of like if you wanted to play, you could make the team, JV, if you weren't as good. So I was active. I played tennis. I loved tennis. I played volleyball on the JV team. I was on the swim team, a little bit more maybe for social reasons than necessarily because I was an athlete, but I always enjoyed... Okay, I was an athlete, sure. So I always enjoyed that. So I was pretty active. I never thought about my weight or diet or anything like that in high school. I had a pretty athletic like body type. And then college came around and I stopped I didn't, at that point I didn't work out just for fun. And so I partied kind of a lot in college. So I gained quite a bit of weight and I just didn't know anything about diet or exercise, and I didn't do any of that. And so I became kind of unhappy as college went on. I wanted to lose weight, but I didn't really know how. And then I kind of figured out, I figured out counting calories. And it's interesting because social media wasn't the way that it is now. There's not as much information about, that's available to us now as back then. So I remember kind of writing down my calories for the day, and I was figuring out, oh wow, when I decrease my calories, I'm able to lose weight. And I got a lot of praise for the weight loss, which that's like another story in and of itself. I also kind of explored going to the gym, and there's sort of, after grad school, I took a year off, and then after undergrad, I took a year off, and I went to grad school, and I started to figure out that I really enjoyed working out when I was in grad school, because that was kind of like a release. I just enjoyed going for a run. That was pretty much what I would do. I would just go running, and I loved running. And I don't think I connected, I didn't know that, you get endorphins after you work out. And I just sort of liked what I liked about it. And I also enjoyed Zumba. There were some pieces of activity that I really liked. And then I was finished with grad school, home for a few years. I was getting married and I wanted to be in great shape. And at that point, all I wanted to be was thin. I didn't think about becoming muscular or strong. I didn't care how many push-ups I could do. I just wanted to look good in a wedding dress. And this is me back then. And so I hired a personal trainer to help me get where I wanted to go. I would go to the gym sometimes twice a day. I was a little psychotic. As I'm like able to look at that now, I think that's too much for me, but that's where I was then. I was really obsessed with the scale. And since then, once I got married, I feel like I stopped kind of working out as much and just became more relaxed and just did my thing. And then I eventually became a mom. I had kids. And then I found when my second little guy was like a year and a half, I was not happy with my body, but I wasn't really sure like what to do. And a friend of mine was a coach and she was always posting, do you want to get fit? Like, do it with me. And I thought, oh, well, maybe I should join in. And I did. And that was incredible for me because it allowed me to work out at home, which I had really never been consistent with before, ever, working out at home. And it was nice. There was a lot of community. I think the reason I was so successful kind of getting on board with that was for the community. She had like a Facebook group and there was an app within that program that everyone could check in and say what they did for their workout. And the women were just so supportive and it was awesome. So that's what kind of got me really consistently back into fitness, I would say. That platform, that friend.
I would love to dive in a little bit to just digging into, I mean, one, you mentioned you gained weight in college. It's also just the lesson learned of we're not kids anymore and don't have the same metabolisms.
Yeah.
But you mentioned at the end of college, you learned to start counting calories. Do you remember where you got that advice from or where you learned to even do that or even what a calorie was?
You know, when I think about it, I'm remembering my Fitness Pal. I'm not sure how long that app has been out, but
yeah.
I remember Googling things like I had a set amount of calories that I had decided. I must have maybe used a BMI calculator or something like that online to figure out how many calories I, quote unquote, should be eating to become the weight that I wanted to be. And so I stuck by like that number of calories. And I remember I was just tracking them down on a piece of paper, but every day. And it was crazy. And I also, it definitely was, now that I think about it, it was my Fitness Pal is it my Fitness Pal, because when you go back, you can see the years back, it tells you, it looks like the Dow Jones, or mine looks like the Dow Jones, going up and down because you put your weight in when you sign into it. And I think that was what I used. And I didn't understand what a calorie was, like the way that I do now as a trainer. I knew, I wouldn't have considered it energy. I don't know what I would have considered it. But now I think of calories as something very different, I think, as I did before.
Right.
Because before I was always... Oh yeah, I was always trying to figure out, I remember before when I was really into diet culture, what can I eat to feel full but to not have a lot of calories, because in my opinion, in my mind, calories were bad and I didn't want to have a lot of them. And I don't think like that anymore. I'm much, it's much better. Yeah.
Right. And I looked it up, by the way, while you were talking. My Fitness Pal came out in 2005. So it very well could have been.
It was. Yeah. And it was new then. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Easy while you're telling the story, I can, get on Google super quick. Things
Perfect.
popped up right away. And you mentioned being praised for the weight loss. So you mentioned, social media wasn't as big then as it is now and all the messaging and everything. But there's still, even without social media, there's still other people. I mean, your social media was in person, basically. You were out and about and talking to people. And, do you remember how that praise affected you or, how that kind of settled in your brain?
I liked it. Who doesn't want to be told, you look so good? And actually when I first started losing weight, it was not intentional, not because I'm now thinking back, I'm getting back to that. I remember I had a waitressing job. I was home for the summer and I think I lost 10 pounds that summer, not dieting. I was waitressing, and so I basically was not eating dinner because had a dinner waitressing shift. And so that meal that I wasn't having was just adding up, and I was naturally just losing weight. I was eating before I would have my shift, but I just didn't eat like the maybe fourth meal that maybe I used to eat. I just wasn't having. And so I remember thinking, someone said I looked really nice or good or whatever, and I thought, "Ooh, I like this. Like I want to continue this."
It's addicting. I mean, also, side note, probably all the running around of waitressing. I mean, you probably burned so many calories that you didn't realize.
Yeah.
But yeah, that praise, it's addicting. When you're getting all this positive reinforcement, it's so easy to fall into a loop of doing those same things, whether they're good for you or not, to keep getting that praise. Like, it's human, it's natural, right?
I know. I struggle even now. Sometimes if I notice somebody has lost weight, I'm sure they've been working hard, and I'd like to praise like their hard work, but I don't want to live in this society where we're so fixated on what people look like that I would compliment that. I know it's toxic now that I know, knowledge is power, and I know more now, so I don't want to perpetuate that. But at the same time, being a trainer and having this idea that you don't want to, it's just contradicting diet culture, and it's an interesting place to be. Yeah.
It's a concept that I talk a lot about with some of my trainer friends, is the concept of weight loss and value of yourself, where complimenting someone's weight loss, it's a tricky slope because someone's been working hard on it, or maybe doing, like I have a client where she had a goal to lose that weight for her health and for her abilities and so many things outside of just looking good. It's, for her health. And you want so badly to compliment on, she's in the gym regularly and she's working with a dietitian. And so you want to compliment that, but you also want to make sure that you're not putting it in someone's head to associate their weight loss or how they look or anything like that with their value as a human. To do it weight loss for health, for example, because a doctor recommends it and you work with professionals for your health, does not mean that you yourself are valued any differently. But it's so tough when aesthetics and beauty are surrounded. We're surrounded by it, especially now that social media is huge.
Yeah, definitely.
So then you mentioned you got a trainer for your wedding, and that's a very common thing to do. I mean, even as personal trainers, one tactic we're taught in like the springtime to get more clients is, let's get in shape for your wedding, which kind of adds to diet culture of, you need to look good for your wedding. And people want to look good for their, it's so difficult to navigate that. So being a bride-to-be and hiring a trainer, doing those exercises, could you kind of dive into a little bit more of how it felt, your mindset, just where you were at that moment?
Yeah. So my trainer, I think she was a certified. I'm honestly not sure if she was a certified trainer. She is now. I don't know if she was then. She was very into fitness. She was very in shape. She was one of my sister's friends. My sister was into, at that point, like doing triathlons, and she had done an Ironman. So my sister knows about fitness. So I trusted my older sister to kind of set me up with somebody to help me with my goals. And so I would go to this woman's house, and she would train me at home using like TRX and dumbbells and things like that. And I had a gym membership. So I was very consistent. I was super motivated. I would sometimes get up and do a morning class, and then I would go see Liz after my work day to get that personal training in. And it was hard. She was a great trainer. She made me feel strong. She made me kind of believe in myself. I could do hard things, and I really enjoyed that time with her. I learned a lot about fitness working out with her. I loved it. And the other thing I remember is I had asked a trainer, and now that I know this, you are not supposed to do this. I asked a trainer at the gym that I went to, because I got like a free training session. Oh, what diet should I go on? Because I want to, be as lean as possible for my wedding. And he recommended this like protein diet, which is, as a trainer, you're really not supposed to recommend diets. I didn't know that then. And I printed out the paper, or took the paper that he gave me and like practically laminated it. And I was like, these are the foods I'm eating. And I always need to eat protein with every meal. And I became obsessed. And I have to say, though, that I was obsessed with food from that point and for a very long time. It was, I didn't know then how damaging it was and how disordered it was. I wouldn't say that I have an eating disorder or had an eating disorder, but I feel that I did have some disordered eating. And I was thinking, if I wasn't eating food, I was thinking about what is the next thing I'm going to eat? Is there going to be something that's on my diet? And that's just so exhausting. So I'm really glad to not be in that place anymore because it's just too much, I think. Yeah.
And I love that phrasing that you used of, an eating disorder is something that's diagnosed, where even a lot of dietitians won't work with eating disorders because there are dietitians who are specialized or work with psychiatrists, or, there's a lot of mental things that go on there. It is something that you're diagnosed with. It may be something further than just what you're taught from social cues, but there is disordered eating, like you're mentioning, of basically diet culture, of, the phrases that a lot of us maybe remember, maybe even still live by it to this day. Hopefully not. Hopefully we're working away from that of, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels, or, just different phrases like that we thought, a decade ago, even 5 years ago, as motivation. I still see those things on Pinterest and stuff. We thought those as motivation, but in reality, it's just teaching us to, like you mentioned, having these habits that are so, you're obsessed with food. Like you're living and breathing, thinking about your calories, thinking about what you're putting in your body. And it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a ton. I remember talking about this with my sister and I are really close. we talk about everything. And she recently, I feel like she kind of prompted me to kind of change my viewpoint, and I'm so thankful. We went to Mexico on a family vacation a few years ago, and she was counting her macros, and I had never counted macros before. And it seemed like a really complicated math problem, like all the time, basically, which it kind of is. But there's apps that can make it more simple and all that. But she had her aha moment, and I want to share it with you because I think it's really powerful. And I related to it so much that I was like, I want to stop with the food police in my head also. So the food police are basically these tiny little voices that say, this is good food, this is bad food. And it's really hard to stop thinking about food in that way when you've been conditioned and been thinking about that for so many years. But it's negative. It's not healthy, I don't think. And also it makes it difficult to enjoy a meal. And that's sort of like, I love eating. I love food. I've always loved food, but it was complicated before. And now I feel like the complication is taken out of it. And so her aha moment was basically when she was like, I am like 40 years old. And why am I doing that? Like, this is ridiculous, basically. Like, she just kind of, and so she's a bit older than me. I'm not 40 yet, but I'm so happy that I've learned from her. And when I'm 40, I hope I'm still in the mindset that I'm in right now, which is, life's too short to worry so much about all that. And it's about how you feel. And it doesn't matter. I don't even weigh myself anymore. I have weighed, it has happened, but I don't weigh myself regularly because that doesn't matter to me. That number on the scale is no longer going to make or break my day. It just is something. And it feels really good for that just to be something that it is and not everything.
Yeah. And so was she counting macros on the vacation? Is that when
she was trying to, and it was really damn complicated.
Right. And so that's such a good example too of, you're on vacation, you're supposed to be having a good time, and food and drinks are so cultural and so social. And, like right now we're recording this around the holidays, and there's so many things that go with it. But it causes so much stress. And so you're adding stress to these supposed to be vacations and supposed to be happy memories. So I love that you added that story in, because that is like a perfect aha moment to be in the middle of trying to have a good time, but being stressed out about your food.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So she had that aha moment, and you looking up to her and talking with her kind of realized that as well. What kind of diving in a little bit deeper, I know you mentioned it high level already, but a little bit deeper, what brought you from there to really where you're at now, or even becoming a trainer?
Okay, that's a great question. So once I started working out consistently because of that friend that was the coach, I sort of realized fitness is not something that I want to like take it or leave it. Like I always want to take it. I love it. It became a part of my routine. I would I was working out always in the mornings before my kids woke up, because my husband, at that time, he worked so much that sometimes he would come home really late, but usually he didn't leave in the morning until, like, I was able to get my workout in before he would leave. So that way, if the kids woke up, he would be able to watch them. Although there were times, because I've been on and off a complete stay-at-home mom, and other times I worked a little bit. But when I was not just, because it is not just, but when I was a stay-at-home mom only, then I would sometimes work out with my kids around me. And what was nice about the program was that they really encouraged moms to work out around your children, show them, the healthy way to be. And that was really neat. Sorry, I feel like I forgot the initial question you asked me. What was it again?
You're good. You're good. Just, diving into all those aha moments when you started realizing that you were in a little bit of diet culture, and then how you got to where you're at now.
Okay. So I was consistently working out and really loving that. And my sister had her aha moment, and then I was sort of like, because I was considering at that point maybe counting macros or something like that. And then I thought, I don't think I want to. I'm a little burnt out from using my FitnessPal and all that. And my weight was I was at a place where that wasn't something that was motivating to me. Like, I didn't want or need to lose weight. And so I just wanted to kind of maintain. And I was enjoying, and I was also really fascinated. There were different programs that the group that I was a part of had different programs. So different ways to work out. There was yoga, there was HIIT classes, there was different things. And I had sort of developed this love for weight training. I kept having to get more and more dumbbells because I didn't have enough to be challenging. And so I was just fascinated with how our bodies work and just the mechanics of it and how our muscles grow. And the more muscle you have, the more fat you burn. And I was just really intrigued. And my sister was the one who encouraged me. She said, you could become a trainer. You'd be really good at it. And I was like, no way. I'm too old. I had a million reasons why I shouldn't do that. But she has always been good at encouraging me to do things. And I said, well, maybe I'll just look into it. And there was an online program, completely online. So I started it, and then actually she took it too. So we were studying together. And so we're now both certified personal trainers. And at the same time, as I was studying to become a trainer, I was expanding my mind. And also, I think some of the good things about social media is that you can follow accounts, particularly on Instagram, that's where I'm most active, of people who align with you. So there are some trainers out there who are going to say things like, earn your dessert and burn all the calories and all the things that before I thought they were motivating to me. When I was in that place, that was motivating to me, but I know more now and I don't really want to think that way. So I don't think I want to surround myself with that kind of a trainer. And so I was realizing you can be both. You can be a trainer and you can say, I'm anti-diet, and that's okay. You can be that. You can be both. And so, that's kind of how I got to where I am now.
I love it. First, I love how close you are to your sister and all the influence she's had on your life. It just shows how important it is to have people in your corner, whether it's a sister, significant other, a friend, colleague even. I mean, just someone in your corner just to help motivate you and get those little stories out of your head of, whatever the reasons were you said you didn't want to do it. And now look at you. You're leading 3 classes a morning, have a group of people following you. You wouldn't have been there had you not taken the leap. So
absolutely.
So
yeah, I'm really
awesome.
thankful. Yeah, thank you.
And then also, I'm curious because, you mentioned social media, and I am a huge believer too. I follow very similar accounts, dietitians who are anti-diet, trainers that are anti-diet. So a lot of my feed is filled with a lot of positive reinforcement of anti-diet and intuitive eating and just having fun with life. Also try to share those things. We both share those things ourselves as well. But to go from the transition of that positive reinforcement being the diet culture, being told you look good, being told the weight loss, was great, et cetera, do you kind of remember that shift of getting out of that positive reinforcement? Because when you're being told these great things, and it's so, like we mentioned before, it's so addicting to hear these things and want to keep chasing the calories, et cetera, how did you kind of overcome listening to that positive reinforcement to find where you're at now?
That's an awesome question. And I think it has everything to do with the way I felt about myself. So once I became confident, it really didn't matter what anybody else was saying about me. I kind of thought, I feel good where I'm at. And if I don't change anymore, that's okay with me. Like, I'm happy with where I am. And I think that that's sort of the problem with when people rely on the scale. And when I get to this number, I'm going to be happy. Because if that's how you are, you're going to get to that number, and I don't think you're going to be happy. And I know that because I feel like I lived it. I remember wanting to be a certain number. I'd get to that number, and then it would be like, yeah, but then I would, eat an apple and then not be at that number. And it's like, that's just a crazy way to live. So I feel like it really has everything to do with just becoming comfortable with where you are and being like, I did that workout and it felt so good. And the idea behind it doesn't have to be, I did that workout in order to burn calories, in order to lose weight. It needs to be, I did that workout and it felt so good, end, period, over. Yeah. So I feel like I just changed more internally, where I wasn't looking for anyone's feedback. I was just happy with where I was.
Yeah, I love that. And so with that, you kind of mentioned a few things throughout our conversation so far, but what are some of the biggest differences you've noticed in where your headspace is now versus where you were before? Like, I know you mentioned a few, but just to kind of summarize, like the biggest things that you've noticed and love about this new mind space.
Okay, the biggest thing, and this is new. I don't have like a gazillion followers on social media, but one of the things I started doing very, very recently is I started to post more videos of me working out in a sports bra. I recently posted one with like my stomach showing, and I'm a little self-conscious of my stomach. I had 2 kids, although honestly, to be really honest, before I had kids, if we're going to talk about bodies, I never had a super flat stomach ever. It's always been, that's where I carry my weight. And so I would wear one pieces, and I love that high-waisted swimsuits are in. That's good for me. I love that. I think they're flattering on me, and I always rock them. But the difference is I feel like now I have this confidence. It's not that I have a perfect body, because I certainly don't, but I am just comfortable with where I am. I feel strong, and I don't care what anybody thinks of me. Like, I'm at this place where, yeah, I do a plank and my stomach hangs down because there's gravity, and I have skin and fat because I'm a human, and we need skin and we need fat, and that's okay. So I would say that's the biggest newest change with me lately, is that I want to post more about what it is to be a real person that's more relatable, because I am a real person. And I don't want to be shy about it, because I think that that's why we live in this space where women are comparing themselves to supermodels who are editing themselves, and that's not real life. And so I kind of want women to know it's okay to wear a 2-piece and not look perfect. If you like that 2-piece and you feel good in it, you should wear it. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
I absolutely love that. And there's a couple accounts. One of my friends, actually, she's very active on social media. She has not had kids. She's in her late 20s, I think. So still younger, no kids, like, but she'll post pictures of her in her workout gear. She is so fit, looks so great, and just like could be on like, gosh, I need to be careful with what I say to make sure I don't actually accidentally say something that is involved with what we're saying. But right. She looks like the stereotypical, like, physical personal trainer. Like, she looks like a trainer, no flaws or anything. But then she'll slouch, and then she'll like pull the high-waisted pants down to like normal waist level, and she'll have rolls, and she'll have curves, and it's very much one of those comparisons of don't believe everything you see. There's flattering clothing, which is great. Wear the flattering clothing if that makes you feel good, but don't wear it to hide. Don't wear it to be shameful. It's all that. But she posts a lot of those kind of both sides of the coin pictures in the same moment, what she looks like posed and what she looks like normal, and they look like it's different, but it's the same person.
Exactly. Yep. I love that. I think that's important. I feel like that's something we're seeing more and more, and I think it's important, and I hope that I think it's hard because when you're saying these things, but you're in like a thin body, and I'm in a thin body. I think I still want the same message to come across for anybody's body. If you feel good in it, it doesn't matter if you look like a fitness model. because you could be a fitness model, you could be a plus size fitness model. And if you look good in that, wear it. If you feel good in it, it's not about if you look good. It's if you feel good, and then you should wear it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love that you're starting to post more about that, because I think the more people like us post about those things, then that will hopefully become the norm, and that will help shift people into this intuitive mindset, and just listening to everything that you're saying. So that's one thing we can do. But what other pieces of advice would you give to someone if you met someone and they were you 10 years ago, or pre-wedding, or into the diet culture? What's some advice that you would give to them?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say advice that I would give to myself 10 years ago. So good. Get into the routine that I'm in now, then. Waking up early, setting aside time for yourself is so important. And I feel like I had lost that when I got into fitness again. I didn't do very much for myself. And I think it's important. It's like self-care. I work out now for a lot of different reasons, but one of the biggest ones is just like the mental health. It helps me so much to feel balanced. And so I wake up and I look forward to the time to myself. But I think 10 years ago, I still could have used that. I was working, I didn't have kids yet, but I had the stress of, planning a wedding and things that feel stressful to your life at that time. So I think that having that time to myself every morning, and you don't need to work out every single morning, but I do think waking up early is really important. I don't know. And I didn't used to feel that way. Man, I didn't used to feel that way, but I've always loved coffee. So even still, I have a cup of coffee, I work out. And if not, even just getting up and reading, or getting up and just being, watch the sunrise. Like just waking up early and having that time to myself is a really important habit that it lends itself to working out, because then you have that time and you start your day just on like the right foot. That's how I've always felt whenever I work out in the morning. I always feel like I did something for me and I feel accomplished, and everything else from there is just, I don't know, it's going to hopefully go well, but I'm usually in a good mood after I work out too.
Yeah. And some things that I'm actually hearing you indirectly say in that advice too is finding something consistent. So for you, it's the waking up early and, committing to yourself, finding time for yourself. And then it also sounds like things that bring you joy. So you've gotten to the point where fitness brings you joy because you're doing it because it feels good, releases those endorphins. Or if you're not feeling a workout, you're watching the sunrise, taking slow moments. So it kind of sounds like consistency and finding joy in the things that you are giving to yourself, right?
100%. If you're waking up to do something that you hate, that would be really hard to wake up. So yeah. I would also remind myself, like 10 years ago, I think I would have, I didn't do weight training and I didn't know how much I would love it. I did love spin and I used to take spin classes. I would get up, I love the loud music. Like I love that. I love Zumba. I loved it then. I don't do as much of those things now because it's harder to get out. I have a gym in my house, so I just work out here. But before, when I was able, more mobile, I was getting out and taking those classes that I enjoyed. Absolutely. You have to love it. If you don't love it, not that we should love everything that we do in life, but I certainly think that you should like the fitness that you're engaging in. Yeah. It makes it a lot easier to do it because I'm not always motivated, but I always feel good after. And if I didn't enjoy it, it would be really hard to force myself to do it.
Yeah. I just think so many people listening to this will be able to relate to some part of your journey that you've been on.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that. And I hope that women will be able to relate. And when I was kind of like getting out, quote unquote, getting out of diet culture, I didn't even know that I was in it. It was so ingrained in me that I didn't know it was wrong until I started talking more with my sister, who was like, how bad does it feel to feel like you're being literally bad if you're eating like a chocolate bar just because you feel like it? And I was sort of like, gosh, that makes so much sense. I don't want to feel bad. And the other thing that was happening that was really motivating to me was the fact that I was a mom. My kids were watching me, and this reminds me of something just a little bit different, but it is in the same vein. My kids were watching me, and I didn't, if I said the things in my head out loud, I would seem like a nut job to them. Like, it's bad to eat a chocolate bar? Like, why? Why is that bad? But they would be like, it's so good though. And I'd be like, yeah, I know. I would never say the things that were going on in my head out loud. So I've really shifted my mentality where now I feel like the things that go on in my head, I'd be okay sharing it because to me, it sort of just is. There's no emotion attached to it. There's no good, bad. There's no morality in food, where I think before I was putting a lot of good and bad in food. And then the other thing is, I remember when I was getting really into working out, when I was doing the program every day, I started to track my water. That was like one new healthy habit. And that is another thing I would encourage. So waking up early and also drinking water. But I was tracking my water. I was always tracking like how much was I having, because it wasn't a big thing for me before. And one of my kids would be like, Mommy, I'm tracking my milk. And I would be like, oh my gosh, like I cannot believe that you but I mean, your kids are watching you. But when they say something like that, you're just like, oh my goodness, what I do and what I say and how I act matters. And that I'll just never forget him saying he was tracking his milk the way that I track my water. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's such a good point to know how much of an influence you are on your little ones.
Yeah.
So I always ask people at the end of podcasts the best way to get a hold of you, but I have to add a plug here that it will be very easy to get a hold of you because not sure if it'll be sometime around when we're releasing this podcast, we will be having Liz Willey fitness videos on the OmniaFit website. So we'll be able to find those there. And in each of those and in the show notes, I will be sure to link to your website. So I'll let you kind of talk about the workouts that you lead, because you lead live workouts. So not just pre-recorded, but live workouts. And I'll make sure to link to all the things. But if you want to chat about that a little bit.
Thank you. Sure. Yes. So I live in Massachusetts. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings at 5:45 Eastern Standard Time, I lead, it's a 45-minute workout on Monday, on Wednesday, and on Friday. And it's dumbbells we use Monday and Wednesday, and Friday it's body weight. And I have a small group of gals, and it's really fun, very high energy, and it's a good time. So I lead that. And you can find me on Instagram at Liz Willey Fitness. I don't have a website. I'm on Facebook, so you could friend me. I have a public account. I have a page. It's my business page is Liz Willey Fitness, personal trainer.
Awesome. And then I'll also post information in the show notes on how to sign up for your classes to do them live with you. Because what a great way to be consistent of having a group of women who are already working out consistently together and joining part of that.
Yeah, it helps me too. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Of course. Well, thank you so much, Liz. This was awesome.
Thank you for having me, Stephanie.
Of course.
Okay, bye.